well, we lived in base housing and we were newlyweds, and we decided, hey, we want to buy something. And we went to an open house just in Oak Harbor, and she happened to be doing that open house. And she saw us, and we were kind of meandering around, and we didn't know what we were doing. We had no idea. And she found us, and she was like, I really like you guys. Are you wanting to buy a house? And we were like, yeah, but here, like, credit, we don't know if we have all the pieces together. And she loved us from that point moving forward. We had to take a little break from searching and do some credit building, and she just walked us through that whole process and never left our side and cheered us on. And once we were ready to jump back in and we had built our credit, then she was like, okay, let's do it. And so she just was our person. She walked through our entire journey as new home buyers and sellers. Buying a house is stressful. It's really hard. And we really felt like Melene was like a mama bear. Like, she was on our side. She was on our team. It felt easier because she was there. And she just supported us. And she was very much like, if anything felt uncomfortable, like price-wise, she was always there, like rooting us on, right? She was just like, okay, if that doesn't feel good to you, let's try this, or we won't do that. And I know we put in a couple offers and, you know, stuff didn't work, and she never like pushed us outside of our boundaries, I would say. And she just kept finding us what we needed. At the time we had 2 dogs and no baby, but we knew we wanted to grow our family. And so she just listened to what we needed and what we wanted. And really set us up, I feel like.
Yeah. She definitely went above and beyond what I expected from a realtor, especially in a military town. I figured most of them would be like, all right, let's buy your home, and then we're not going to talk to you. Like, go on to the next one. But she definitely spent the time. I could say we had to build that credit, and she would always check up and ask how it was going and try to touch base with us. And then when we were ready to go back in, she got us our lender, and then there was paperwork we had to fill out there, and she was always like willing to step in and like talk us through it and make sure we had everything we needed. So it was very personable, and she just treated us like we were very human, not just like, let's go, next person.
So if it was more of a challenging subject, she'd message me because I'm more like chill and patient. Skyler's a little more, Skyler's like Melene's husband. If you ask Melene, we'd like, oh, that sounds like my husband. So Skyler's very like quick to fire, can get frustrated. And so Melene, sometimes I think when there was like a touchy subject, she would come to me and I'd be like, let me ask Skyler, or I'd go ahead and answer it. And just as a buffer, I think she was always like intuitive and checking on us and just making sure. But yeah, she definitely learned both of us really well. And if there were like construction things or things, she'd be like, oh, ask Skyler. I'm like, yeah, Skyler and I weren't together. So Skyler was in San Diego doing training. I was still in Whidbey. So certain things I'm like, Melene, just call Skyler. Like, that, I can't get a hold of him right now. It'd be easier for you to. And she would. She'd be like, okay, I'll give him a call, or vice versa. And so I think communication may have been harder in those moments just because we weren't together and life just felt stressful. But she didn't stop trying or loving us or trying to communicate throughout even those challenging times. So we have 2 big German Shepherds. I know you haven't gotten eyes on them yet, but they're big, and we wanted what base housing didn't offer for us and our family at that time was a yard for them. They didn't have the outdoor area to do that. And so she knew that that was a big ploy on us. And so we would, in houses, we literally would go see them and we would sit down. I remember we just sit, because they were vacant houses, right? They didn't have furniture in them. And so we would sit in them and we would just brainstorm, like, what do we like about this house? What do we not? Pros and cons list for like every house we went and looked at. And it really helped at the end that we'd be down to like, 3 or 4 houses. Be like, okay, what do we like? What do we didn't like? Because you see all these homes and it's like, okay, they kind of mush together. And so she really just helped us like streamline and understand what we wanted. I feel like we used her so much for that buying process. Selling, it was quick. It was stressful. She loved us so well when we sold, because it was a high stress time. Skyler wasn't really home. We were trying to finish up some construction stuff. Obviously we had a toddler now thrown in the mix. We had a timeline that we had to be out of there and move by then. And so God love Melene, because we were harder to deal with on the selling side of it. We were just more stressed and more angst, and just our timeline was very strict. And she loved us so well. And that's what I told her when we finally closed. I was like, thank you for loving us through this process, because we were hard to love in that time, I feel like. And she never lost patience or kindness or the time that she gave us ever. Melene never wavered, which was really awesome.
There was no thought process. With buying a home being so seamless with her, it was a no-brainer. Just to be like, hey, if or when we have the PCS, you're gonna sell our home for us, okay? And we had told her to expect that call when we had bought the house if we had the PCS. We did, so
We didn't even look around for anybody else. We were just like, hey, Melene, we're ready. Well, I'll tell you, we had 2 really good friends, another couple in Whidbey, and they bought a house around the same time as us with someone different. Didn't have a great experience, and we were like, hey, when you go to sell, pick Melene, and they picked Melene. So we were already felt like she had business cards for us. We had her on our refrigerator. We were ready to advocate for Melene in any way, shape, or form. I know Skyler told people at work, like, hey man, or hey people, if you're ever looking to buy or sell, like, we have a realtor for you. And so we just felt like it was easy to market for her because we had such a good personal experience. People I work with as well, I was always like, we had an awesome realtor, like, let me know if you need help. And so it was just easy to market for her because she does have such a good reputation and did just love us so well.
Quaint, quiet, small town feel.
Beautiful.
It's beautiful. We went from beautiful ocean town Whidbey to the middle of the desert where you start to miss the rain. So it's definitely the beauty that you get on Whidbey, you can't find it really anywhere else. And that's hands down something that I miss. There's a lot to do in and around the area. I mean, you have Stevens Pass an hour away, you have Mount Baker an hour away, you have crabbing right there in
we missed that.
You have Deception State Park. There's a lot to do in and around Whidbey. Sometimes you just have to travel to get there.
I feel like their life really slows down. And so some people stationed there can feel like, oh, there's nothing to do in Whidbey. Skylar and I came from a small town in southern Indiana, so that aspect of it wasn't bothersome for us. We were like, oh no, this feels like home, right? We like that small town community feel. I worked for the local hospital and I feel like I got really connected there. You still talk about your people and your command and your squadron, and it's just like an awesome community there, just work-wise in comparison to here. I think Melene becomes family, which is really awesome. She still checks in on us frequently. She knows that our end game is to be in Tennessee on property, and she's already like, oh, I'll connect you with realtors, and like sending us names. And so she's become family to us. And I think it's incredible to have that, especially because when we were in Whidbey, we didn't have our family, right? We were military, all our family's back in Indiana. So just to have someone who loved us and felt like that and checked in and cared for our whole family. Even Rosanelle, our daughter, she loved her and would just walk in and start reading books with her. Rosanelle called her Mimi, which was sweet. So it's just, Melene became family. And I think you don't get that. It was never felt like a business transaction with Melene.
I mean, even after I was on my first deployment and we had a leak pop up underneath the house, and Melene came over and made sure that the water was shut off on the street and that everything like that, and gave us or reached out to people to see who we could get for a plumber. So most realtors don't do that. After they close, it's like, bye.
Yeah, never felt like that with her. She was always ready to be a resource and help us. And like if I needed help with the dogs when I was going into labor, she was willing to help across all fronts as a mama, as a realtor, as a friend. Mother's Day, she stopped by for me. I was home alone. He was gone on my first Mother's Day, and she just stopped in because she wanted to spend time. Yeah, she just became family, which is really awesome.